Hello, I'm Brian. Today I'll be making a quick and dirty version of one of my favorite Vietnamese dishes, broken rice. I have this little tiny rice cooker in my hand. You may be wondering why I'm holding it. Well, I come from a large family and I'm used to seeing large rice cookers. So when it was time to spread my wings and leave the nest, I was given this little tiny rice cooker. I didn't think it was going to be enough for my needs, but with my new and small family, it's come in quite handy. It cooks just enough rice, and this little steamer tray is super convenient. Let's go to the backyard first and get the ingredients that we need. This is a lemongrass plant. I tried to grow some lemongrass, and they're grown over here with the other prickly plants because lemongrass have these razor-like blades, so they're good for as a security plant. Over here, I'm also trying to do the same thing and sharing the fence with my neighbor. I thought I'd grow that as both privacy and security. I'm not really worried about security, it's just a nice thought that you can use it as that. Here are some lolot plants. You've seen these before in the garden tour, and they have a very pungent smell. They're going to be good for the marinade. We're going to use some green onions. These are Tokyo long white onions, and they're also known as scallions, so we're going to get one. If I can pick it out. It has a pretty good hold. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to rip out the other one. And then we're going to also need some greens for the broken rice. This is a romaine lettuce. I'm not going to pick it right now. It's pretty hot and I want to pick it fresh, so rather than pick it and put it in the fridge, I'll pick it right before we need to use it. Over here is bromeliad that I've had for a few years. I'll see if it ever flowers. I know in the commercial industry they force the flower by putting some gases or some process. Here is a leopard lily. I got the plant online from Richter's Herb one year. It flowered and then it died, but before it died it gave me seed, so it's taking a long time to grow from seed. I think this is a third year now. This is a couple of orchids, and orchids are something that I'm trying to grow. The smaller one is a newer one that I got this year. Here is some special guests. There are a couple of redfoot tortoises in here, and they live out here in this open air enclosure. I'm going to feed them today. Well, I feed them every day, but I'm going to feed them for you. They help break down the extra plants and veggies that I have. And here's Marbel the rabbit. Here's that sugar pie pumpkin that is probably not going to be used. So throw it on the ground to crack it open for them, because the pie pumpkins have this really tough skin that it's pretty hard for them to get into. Yeah, so rabbits, I know they're pretty cute and everything, and I'm hoping that by seeing this you're not getting an itch to get a rabbit. They're actually a lot of work, and the novelty of owning a rabbit goes away really quickly. All the rabbits I've gotten because people didn't want them. Probably after a week or a month or two, they get tired of the rabbits because rabbits go to the bathroom a lot. And inside the house, it's a lot of cleanup and people get tired of it. So there's the unglamorous part of owning a rabbit. So if you're thinking about getting a rabbit, really think about that. Alright, let's get to the other ingredients, the garlic that we need. And these are Chesnok garlic. It's my second year growing them. I've learned a lot. The garlic on the rake, I'm going to replant because they're bigger. These are the other garlic that I have that I'll be using in the kitchen. Although they look small, the cloves are pretty sizable. So here's one of the biggest bulbs that I have, and I also was experimenting to see what would happen if I left the garlic past when it's ideal to harvest. So this was harvested a couple days ago, and the bulbs do seem to be bigger, but the cellulose casing, it all decayed away, so probably not the best idea when it comes to storing garlic if you want to have garlic to store, to leave them in the ground. Here are some other ones. And the other thing I'm going to do when growing garlic this year is I'm going to plant fewer. Rather than have a whole bunch, I'm going to plant fewer. I'm already looking forward to October, because that's when we're going to plant the garlic again. So be sure to check back in October for a garlic planting video. So I'm going to use those. And then here are some shallots. I'm going to grab one just the size that I need. This is one there are a few sizes. So, and then here are the other harvests from the previous days that we're going to use. The Black Prince tomato, and then also from earlier today, the Japanese cucumber harvest. Back in the kitchen, here are the things that we just collected from the garden. A shallot, a bulb of heirloom Chesnok Red garlic, Tokyo long white scallion, Piper lolot leaf. And since I'm waiting for my lemongrass to grow, I'm going to use one from my mom's garden. But I also want to show you something really cool. This is my souvenir from the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've used this bottle as a way to keep my herbs fresh, like the rosemary. And discovered that when I forgot about it and left it, the rosemary started to root. So I thought I'd try to root this Piper lolot plant. It's been here for maybe a month and a half, and we have a root coming out of it. So I'm pretty excited. When it started out, I had this big leaf, and then everything that's growing out has grown subsequently. So I'm gonna leave this back in the bottle, let the roots grow a little bit longer, and I'll put it in the ground. I tried to root it directly into the ground one time, but it wasn't very successful. So this seems to be a better way of rooting Piper lolot. Back to the windowsill it goes, and let's get back to making our broken rice dish. So for the quiche, we're going to use some wood ear. You can get them fresh, but generally you can find them dry, and we're going to rehydrate them. While we wait for the wood ear to rehydrate, let's start on the marinade. And let's start off with using our homegrown hardneck garlic. And garlic is something that I really enjoy using in the kitchen. It adds a lot of flavor to a lot of food. So if you see me cooking, I'm going to be using probably a lot more garlic than recommended. Chesnok Red is one of the more pungent garlics. And this year I was able to get some red coloring on their covering. Last year I didn't get too much, so it's probably a good sign. I'm probably headed in the right direction. So there are lots of pictures of chestnut garlic, and some have red and some are white. And I wonder what causes the red, so if you know, let me know. I'd be interested to know. So then we have this lolot leaf, and as I mentioned, it has a very pungent scent. This one I ordered and got the plant from Richter's Herb. They are a nursery in Canada, and I've seen people grow this lolot plant, but they're not as pungent as the one here. It's really, really fishy, so I really am hesitant to cook any of the meals made with it in the house because it lingers. Alright, the lemongrass cut in 3-inch sections, crush to release the flavor. And then for the marinade, alcohol. Use your favorite alcohol. I'm using tequila, some soy sauce, and some sugar. Alcohol is supposed to do something to the meat. It's supposed to tenderize it or something. There's some science with it. But it also has a nice alcohol flavor. Some soy sauce. So the tequila, about a splash. This is probably 3 splashes, which is maybe a third of a cup of soy sauce. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons of sugar. The soy sauce, depending on its salinity, you're going to want to use more or less. This cumin soy sauce is pretty salty, so that was probably, I don't know what the conversions are, but probably less than a third of a cup of soy sauce, maybe around 5 tablespoons. So give it a good stir to melt the sugar, and afterwards we'll cut up our pork loin. But first, the wood ear is starting to rehydrate. They're looking like film now, so we'll use that in the quiche for later. So here's the pork loin. In frugal cooking, I've discovered that the pork loin is a pretty good cut of meat to use. I buy it in bulk and freeze it up, and it's a good, quick and dirty meat for broken rice. Broken rice is traditionally made with pork chop, and since we don't have that, or if we're making it day of and we don't want to go to the market, then I use the pork loin. So we're going to cut up about 3 pieces, and then afterwards we're going to tenderize the pork loin. This step is optional but highly recommended. Tenderizing the meat helps it with the marinade process. It gives it more surface area for the marinades to get in, and also when it cooks up, it's going to shrink back up. So if you start with a piece that's not tenderized, it's going to shrink, and it's going to get a little bit more tough. So here is a comparison. After tenderizing, it also flattens it out. And when you tenderize, if you haven't done it before, start in the middle, and then you want to have a motion where you pull the meat to the edge. So you want to slam it down and then pull the meat to the edge. So now let's get the meat nice and covered with our marinade. And before covering it, make sure to tuck the lemongrass underneath the meat so that the meat can get the lemongrass flavor. And lemongrass is one of the primary components in the flavoring, so make sure to cover it all up and get it in there. With the meat marinating and soaking up all the garlic and the lolot and the lemongrass, we're going to start on the quiche. I'm going to use this 2-cup Pyrex container because anything bigger won't fit in the rice cooker steamer. And as it is, it's barely fitting in. It's fitting in like a glove. So the wood ear gets cut up, and then next we're going to dice up the shallot that we got from the garden. And this is a good size. If you like shallot, you can use a little bit more. Shallots are really easy to grow, so they can be grown year-round in California, so there's always some shallots to harvest. Cut it all up, dice it up, and in goes a bowl. Then about a teaspoon of fish sauce for seasoning. Then we crack in 3 eggs, and after we crack the eggs, we're going to want to whisk it really good. The more you whisk it, the fluffier it gets. The steam will help the egg fluff up, but the whisking also helps a lot too. This is mung bean noodle, also known as glass noodle. It's in its dry form, so you can put it in the bowl like that. You want to cover it as much as possible, but the egg will fluff up and also cover it. So here it is after probably half an hour, and it's now ready to get a toasty top. So it's going to go in the toaster oven for about 4 minutes on broil. This step is optional, but I like the little dry toasty top. So after 4 minutes, it's ready to go. Now we're going to cook the broken rice. Broken rice is rice, as its name suggests, is broken. And in part of the rice sorting process, there'll be little tiny shards that are probably too small to really sell to you. So they usually collect it, and those ones are sold as broken rice. But here, this is more the type that is actually manufactured broken rice. So it's not going to be as good as the actual broken rice that you find when you sort rice. And the consistency is closer to couscous. So if you're not able to find broken rice, you can probably try to use couscous. After washing, we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to help it with its texture. And I'm sure there's probably videos on how to make your own broken rice if you like to try and you cannot find broken rice. Now to cook the meat, you can cook it in a cast iron skillet or George Foreman grill if you have one. Ideally, you want to cook it over coal fire, but since this is a quick and dirty version, we're going to use our kitchen appliances. Going to give it a turn, and let's then now cut up our vegetables. So this is our Japanese cucumber that was harvested earlier today. If you're curious to know what it looks like in the middle, that's what it looks like. There's a lot of flesh, so that's pretty neat about this cucumber. This is our Black Prince tomato that was picked yesterday, and I'm going to slice it up. The key to slicing tomatoes is to be really gentle with it, because you can smash it up. So put a little bit of pressure to break through the skin. Once you break through the skin, it pretty much guides itself. We're going to cut up a couple slices, and this is our Tokyo long white scallion. This is going to be used in a garnish on top. We're going to cut it all up, and then we're going to cook it in hot oil. It's also really good in the dish. It adds a lot of flavor to it. I like a lot of green onions, and you can see it springing off the board. I wonder if that's why they call it spring onion. This happens when you have really fresh green onions. So it's also another easy plant to grow that I grow, and it's also very highly complementary of food, so it adds a lot of flavor for its ease of growing. I'm going to fry an egg, and the key is to make sure you scrape the egg off the bottom slowly. So you're going to lift and let oil go under, and then lift some more and let oil go under. Then that way it doesn't stick and you're not left with a big glob. I'm not a huge fan of raw yolk, so I know this is blasphemy here, but I'm going to cook my yolk all the way through. And once again, I'm just going to get the oil on top to cook it. Now it's cooked, we're going to let it dry off, or the oil soak off on a paper towel. We're almost there. The last thing is to use that hot oil and give our green onion a quick cook. So heat up the oil again, turn off the fire, and then throw the green onion onto the pan. Give it a quick stir, and it will pretty much cook itself. And we'll top it on the rice later on. Again, make sure to take it off the heat, and because it will blacken. Right now it has enough temperature to cook. And let's take the quiche out of our Pyrex bowl here and cut it up. With the quiche, I typically also put in ground pork, but I didn't have any today. You can also put in whatever other things that you like shredded carrots or kale, or any other healthy things, or anything that you like to have. So this is what it looks like. It has a little bit of fluffiness. The steam helps it lift the egg up. Now it's time to plate. Let's put some rice in a bowl. We'll use the bowl as a mold, and we'll plate the broken rice. If you ever had this at a restaurant, you could order all sorts of things with it, like barbecue shrimp, shrimp paste with tofu skin, shredded pork, and rice. So I wish I had some shredded pork and ground grilled rice, because that's really good. And this is the sister to the sriracha chili, the one that no one talks too much about, but it is super, super good. It's basically sriracha that's a little bit more gritty. And here is our broken rice dish with ingredients from the garden. We have Black Prince heirloom tomatoes, along with romaine lettuce, some Tokyo long white onion, and used in the marinade and in the quiche, some heirloom Chesnok Red garlic and shallots. Also, a leaf of lolot and some lemongrass from my mom's garden. Served along is a tiny bowl of fish sauce vinaigrette. I didn't make it in this video, but you can find the recipe online. It's drizzled over the rice and mixed in. And this is one of my favorite dishes to eat when I go out and also make at home. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you enjoyed our special guests. And thank you for watching as always, and I'll catch you next time.